Oh, welcome in to the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Braden. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, baby, what's going on?
Man, is it sweet to hear your voice. Tennessee, Florida week. You've been hiding for them Gators are coming to town. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I've been offline. I've been disconnected. I've been doing all my proper sacrificing. I went up on the mountain there and I did all the right things. So if we lose, it's not because of the work I didn't put in,
Right.
So trying to get this evil, bad juju off of us. It's time for a Tennessee Volunteer victory over them Florida Gators. Of course, I don't want to give away my pick yet.
Right.
But just say, I may have just then.
Well, Shane, with you out, I've been trying to do my best to make this show as entertaining as possible, having guests across the week. And I'm sure there's a lot of people already listening to all the interviews, but if they haven't, go back and check them out. And I just want to, real quick, pick your brain, Shane. Stephen Lassen actually had him on twice because I screwed up the first time. Trey Wallace, that was a great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Ty Richardson, Tony Basilio. Did you have a favorite conversation or moment that maybe if somebody missed it, they go back and check it out?
Mike, so many great opinions, great voices. I look at Tony just because I listened to him a long time before we even did a podcast, so that's obviously one of my guys. But I love the hot take there by Ty. Oh, going on about that Texas A&M, man. Those classless bastards, Oh, so no, it's been a great weekend, and I appreciate everybody helping out, pitching in. I've had a couple personal stuff going on this week, and I just appreciate them coming on and keep the content rolling because it was. Don't think I wasn't listening, Mike. I was joking with the wife. The next day you're talking about the SEC matchups and totally missed Auburn and Mizzou, and I was like, golly, I'm gone for one day. And Mike, the wheels have fell off. Ain't even acknowledging two of the SEC teams. So, but I joke, Mike. I appreciate you picking up and the extra effort you've done for the show here. You kept it rolling, so appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no doubt, brother. Well, sometimes we all got to pick up some slack, but I'll tell you where we don't have to do it, Shane, and that is with our picks this year. I'm going to throw this up there. I threw it up on Monday, and I'm really just bragging, Shane, because I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak. But overall, I'm 29-4 picking these games. You, Shane, you're right there with me, 28-5, just an incredible win-loss record picking these games. But here's where it really gets impressive. Cousin Shane, 21-9 against the spread. Oh, my goodness.
Printing money, baby.
Bankrupting casinos out here. I'm 19-11, so not far from you. But here's where you really shine, Shane.
Mm-hmm.
Wager 6-0, undefeated,
baby.
No one can test this man on the Wager app. I'm 3-2, so let's not even talk about that. But Shane, proud sponsors of the Wager app. Head on over to the Wager app. You can find that in the show notes. They've got a special promotion going on right now, Shane.
Yeah.
You put in that promo code SEC, they'll give you 20 free bucks to wager on. No credit card required. I mean, this is a crazy great deal. But right now, in addition, Shane, to that free $20, Wager is matching your initial deposit up to $100. So you could start today, Shane, with $220 in your Wager app. If you just put in 100 and you use that promo code SEC, this is a great service here, Shane. Instead of betting against the casinos, you're betting peer-to-peer.
Yep.
We've got our own group in there, that SEC podcast. Just go into the app, search us out. You can wager against Shane and I, and you can lose because that's all Shane does is win in there.
It.
No one can beat this man.
Not a lot of challenges on my side, Mike.
But just a heads up, Shane, the Wager app is for Tennessee residents only. And if you have to be 21 years of age or older to play the game. And if you got a gambling problem, Shane, 1-800-889-9789. Come on down to the Wager app and wager against Cousin Shane and I.
That's right. Everybody keeps waiting for me to mess up. Maybe this is the week. You don't like my picks? Then come take my money.
And we're also, Shane, if you're outside of the state of Tennessee, but you want to play with us, Prize Picks. All over the Southeast, Prize Picks is available, Shane. Daily fantasy sports, and why we love Prize Picks over any other competitors. Not only do they got NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, all the sports you could want, but they got college football. And man, I may not be that good at wagering, but I am good at Prize Picks, Shane, and I have got some Prize Picks selections that I know are going to be winners this weekend. You ready to hear them?
I'm ready to hear them, Mike.
All right, so check it out, and don't forget, head on over to the Prize Picks app. You put in that promo code SEC, and they will also match any initial deposit up to $100. Again, use that promo code SEC. That's in the show notes as well. But Will Rogers, Shane, playing Bowling Green. We're about to pick that game. Mississippi State's a 30-point favorite. Over under 327.5 passing yards. Will Rogers may have that by halftime, brother.
I like that, Mike. And this isn't Bowling Green, Kentucky, I found out. Little disappointed. Doesn't have a university up there. I was enamored by all the Corvettes. I didn't have time to look for a school. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of points in this game and a lot of yards, so give me the over. Will Rogers, I love it.
Now, how about this one, Shane? Anthony Richardson. I've been betting on him. He's the only one that's basically costing me on the Prize Picks this year. I'm going under 184.5 passing yards against Tennessee. Until further notice, you can't bet on Anthony Richardson to go over on a stat like this, can you?
No, and banged up. You know, I'm not saying he's not going to make it through this Tennessee game, but there's going to be constant, relentless pressure, and that's a gamble you take with Anthony Richardson, which is going to require a lot of mobile yards, I think. I think he's going to do more running than throwing. So,
right.
Yeah, I like that one.
Well, speaking of running, Shane, Florida running back Montrell Johnson, I believe he's number 5 in the SEC in rushing this season. Over 65.5 rushing yards on your Vols, because I think the only prayer Florida has in this ball game is to run the ball. I think they're going to commit to it, even if it's not working at some times. Montrell Johnson over 65.5 rushing yards. What do you like that one?
Yeah, I like the over here, Mike. That's what Florida's going to have to do is establish a run, slow down this game. So how do you do that? You give it to your best running back. So I expect him to have a lot of yards in this one.
And then final one for me, Shane, Devon Achane, Texas A&M running back. He's about the only thing going right for the Aggies. He scored a touchdown in every ball game this year. Over 70.5 rushing yards against Arkansas. Thoughts on that?
Oh, Mike, I don't know about that one. I mean, up to this point, Achane has been the only offense that Texas A&M has had, and I don't know, man. Something about them Razorbacks, I think they're going to be keyed in on that. So force Max Johnson to throw the ball. No, expect a loaded box. I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one.
Okay. And here's a great final thing on Prize Picks, Shane. This is great. If you play a parlay, let's say you play 3 of these selections, you only get 2 of them, you get your money back. So, man, this Prize Picks is a great value. And, again, use that promo code SEC. They'll match your initial deposit up to $100. But, Shane, it's enough of the wagers until we get to our wagers of the week. Enough of the Prize Picks.
Yeah. We done paid the bills, Mike. Let's get to some college football, baby.
Let's make some picks, brother. And starting right here, Shane, Bowling Green at Mississippi State. Them Bulldogs favored by 30 points. The over-under's 52 total points. This game kicks off at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central on the SEC Network. Who you got in the ball game?
Oh, Mike, Bowling Green's one of those schools that just keeps popping up every now and then, ain't they? And then you're reminded how ugly those uniforms are. I mean, what did they do? Did they just, I'll see if we can get away with this mascot? Probably one of the ugliest schools I've ever seen. But, Mississippi State, speaking of ugly, played ugly last week. I mean, especially the second half. This was a team that I left scratching my head. I still think Mississippi State is a fantastic program. I still think Mike Leach is the guy. I love this defense. I think they're tenacious, and there's just something happened in that second half that they just lost their identity. And I hope they find it or have found it over this week. And I think after some film study, they're going to realize they missed a shit ton of opportunities against LSU and probably could have came away with a victory, but they didn't. So how do they correct that? They get back to what they're good at, and that's throwing the ball. We talked about prize pick Rogers. I expect a lot of yards here. I expect a lot of passing. I expect a lot of different targets, multiple targets, and I don't expect a 4th-and-1 run anymore. I really don't, because that's not the identity of this team. So I think they get that right. However, that's a lot of points, Mike. What'd you say, 30?
Yep, favored by 30.
I mean, I'm going to give you a score here, and you look at the score, you think it's going to be a total beatdown. It will be, but I just don't know if 30 points is – I think it's just too many for me. So I'm going to take Bowling Green with the points here, but I got Mississippi State winning easily, 42, Bowling Green 14.
Okay, I like that, Shane. Yeah, I mean, that is the biggest storyline heading into this matchup, Shane. How will Mississippi State respond to their first loss of the season? A lot of miscues on offense last week. Yep. And, that kind of leads me to believe that Mike Leach is going to keep in Will Rogers. He did it in the opener too, but leave in his starters. Got to correct these issues before they jump back into SEC play. Mississippi State turns around next week and plays A&M. So this is the final tune-up before the meat of that schedule. Bowling Green, Shane, 128th in the country in scoring defense. They allow 45 points per game. You're telling me Mississippi State can't beat that? I think they do in this ball game. So, yeah, I think it's a bounce back. But again, this makes me a little nervous. I think the defense really needs to respond after kind of collapsing late in the fourth quarter against LSU. So give me Mississippi State 48, Bowling Green 13. I think they do cover the spread, Shane, but again, not 100% confident in that, because that 30 points, like you said, I mean, that's just a ton to cover in a game like this.
Yeah, it's just it looks too easy, don't it? It looks like low-hanging fruit, and then you're like, it's like Adam and Eve, It's like, I don't know if I should eat this apple, I'm not, because they hurt me last week, and you hurt me once, I'm afraid to bet on you, but don't be surprised. I'm not very confident in that score, because I could see in my mind Will Rogers and company just laying it into Bowling Green, and then we're sitting there looking like idiots. So I'm going to say one of the least confidence games, but I'm just afraid to bet on them right now.
How about this one, Shane? Kent State at number 1 Georgia. Bulldogs, Shane, favored by 45 points. Good night. The over-under, 62 total points. This is a noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central kickoff on ESPN and SEC Network Plus. Who you like?
Who do I like? Kent State barely. No, just kidding. Wouldn't that be something, man? Fire Kirby after that one. No, I think this is a continuation of dominance from the number 1 team in the country. Mm-hmm. This is a program that I think they're more upset that they gave away a touchdown last game than they are the fact that they're playing Kent State here. So this is a joke of a game. Probably the most confident, and I'm not wagering this one because I just feel like that's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
I'm going to still take the over here with the Georgia Bulldogs, but the score is going to be 56, Kent State 0.
Oh, my goodness.
Do you hear that? 0. They're not even going to get past the 35-yard line. That's how confident I am in these Bulldogs. Number 1 team.
Yeah. Well, hey, I can't blame you, Shane. I mean, Kent State's got the number 92 scoring defense in the country. Georgia's got the number 1. They allow 3.3 points per game. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine Kent State, like you said, even threatening to score the Georgia Bulldogs.
Can I ask you something, Mike? And I don't want to interrupt you, but I did. I'm curious your opinion. Do you ever think there's turmoil in that locker room? I'm watching Stetson and I'm watching Bowers and and it was fun and it was exciting, but there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offensive. I mean, you talked about it earlier this week with the running backs not getting that many touches because they're not needed. Do you ever think that comes up, or do you think this team is one team, one mission, blah blah blah?
I think honestly, Shane, winning covers up a lot of that, but I think you're naive if you say it doesn't come in at all, because I think that's why Jermaine Burton right now is at Alabama. Yeah. And he may be regretting that decision. I mean, it's early, but hell, Georgia looks like a better team, but there's a reason, he wanted to go catch more passes from Bryce Young than block in, not that Stetson Bennett's number 2 in the SEC in passing. So, but he does throw a lot to the backs and tight ends. So there is certainly something to be said for that. But at the end of the day, if you got a problem, Shane, being on the machine that is the Georgia Bulldogs, then we probably don't want you anyway, if you know what I mean. So
it just feels like one of those weeks that they try to force feed some other folks. So you want to talk about prize picks? I'm looking at those guys. I'm looking at Eric Gilbert, or I'm looking at, maybe some of these running backs getting over. I don't know. I think they're going to limit Bowers, maybe even under on Bowers, because you don't really need them during Kent State. So don't be surprised if some other folks don't get fed this week.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly just like a pick-your-score type game, Shane, but certainly I got confidence Georgia could cover if they wanted to. I just don't know if they will. I don't even know how long they'll play Stetson in this ball game. Yeah. So I'm actually taking Kent State, Shane, and the points. Remember, it's a 45-point spread.
Yeah.
Georgia 42, Kent State 0. So imagine shutting a team out but not covering the spread. I think that is a possibility. And again, if they wanted to, they could pile on the points and they can easily cover. But that's just a ton of points. So this is a stay away from me.
Okay, I'm with you.
All right, how about this?
Well, no, I'm not with you, but I see where you're coming from.
How about this one, Shane? Tulsa on the road at number 16, Ole Miss. Rebels favored by 21.5 points. The over-under 65.5. Game kicks off at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central on the SEC Network. Who's winning this one, Shane?
That's one place I have no desire to go to is Tulsa. Have you ever woke up and said, bucket list Tulsa? I'd like to visit that. I don't see it happening. I don't want to see a game there. This one kind of worries me. And why it worries me is the point spread. I just don't get it. I don't. I mean, did they not see Georgia Tech game last week? Have they not seen any game Ole Miss has put together yet? And what has Tulsa done? Tulsa ain't played nobody. They really haven't. I think they lost to Northern Illinois. So I mean, what are we seeing here with Tulsa? So it worries me a little bit that Vegas has the spread sitting there so pretty.
Well, Tulsa they average 43 points per game, so maybe they're thinking they'll be able to score on the Rebels.
Well, maybe, but have you not seen the Rebels' defense? I think that's probably one of the best. I honestly love what they're doing down there in Ole Miss, especially with the run. I mean, it's night and day from last year. That's what Lane does. What has he got? What has he got in the cupboard? That's what he's going to use. Yep. And Evans is by far the best running back in the league right now, and they're leaning heavy on him. And there's no reason to see that any different. So I don't think it's a shootout. But I just think Ole Miss has too much, and they run away with it. So let's go ahead and wager this thing up, Mike, because, when I see it sitting there pretty like that, I got to take it. I don't think Tulsa scores 40 points. Hell, I don't think they get more than 14 points because I got them sitting there at 10. I don't think it's a high-scoring game. I think that's rat poison, as Lane would say. I think it's a tough ball game, and mainly from the defense side. So give me Ole Miss 35. Tulsa, 10. And I'm undefeated for a reason, Mike. Undefeated.
Well, you're not
go down this week.
You're not the only one who's undefeated, Shane. Lane Kiffin, of course, undefeated down here in Oxford. And he's got two of the best running backs, like you mentioned. Zach Evans, number 3 in the SEC rushing. He's only number 3 because he's having to share the ball with Quinshon Judkins, the freshman, 289 rushing yards. He's number 4 in the SEC. And Kiffin was asked, does he like having these young guys that can star at the SEC level. This clip is too good not to share.
Obviously, you haven't had too many freshmen play early your first couple of years, but now that you have guys like Quinshawn, guys like Davison that are doing it, is that something that you want to have happen more, or is it just you had two players that naturally were able to play this young?
No, we'd really like to not have really unique, great players that play early. I mean, come on. You got to admit that was a bad question.
I mean, hey, credit Kiffin for putting this guy in his place. But yeah, of course, he likes having these star players ready to compete, and he's gonna like having them this weekend too, Shane. I mean, this is Ole Miss final tune-up before the SEC play begins next week, hosting Kentucky. That's going to be a massive, massive game.
Yeah.
The only trouble here, Shane, maybe a little bit of a look ahead with Kentucky coming to town, is they certainly would not be the last team to kind of suffer from a look ahead. I'm looking at you, Arkansas, nearly lost to damn Missouri State and many others like it. So that is a concern. Still kind of messing around at quarterback. Certainly looks like Jackson Dart is the guy, but covering a little bit more than 3 touchdowns at home, that could be a problem, particularly Ole Miss so good at running the ball. If you're not scoring when you do that, you're eating up the clock. This is a risky one. This was a bold move by you, Shane, making this your wager of the week, but not too bold, because I actually agree with you. Ole Miss, 45. Tulsa, I think they get 17. Still cover the spread, but again, I don't know if I would have made this my wager of the week, but maybe that's why you're undefeated and I'm not.
Yeah. Did you change your score when you heard the king was in town? I'm going to ride this wave until I fall off the board, man.
How about this one, Shane? Northern Illinois at number 8 Kentucky. Wildcats favored by 26.5 points at home. Over under 53 total points. This game kicks off at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central on ESPN2. Northern Illinois, hell, I guess they want to be in the SEC. This is 2 for 2. 2 weekends they've played an SEC team.
It's so funny because prior to this, I made the joke, who knows anything about Northern Illinois? And it's like after watching, especially at Vanderbilt game, I'm like, I know a lot about Northern Illinois. One thing I don't know, and I don't know if you've touched on this, but the quarterback situation up there is Mr. Lombardi going to be there? Because I think that's a big piece here.
Yeah, honestly, Shane, I don't know. I think he's questionable for this game.
Okay.
And, I mean, that he's about the only shot of keeping this thing competitive that they've got. You know what?
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is a sneaky good little offense, man, and it's fun to watch. They've been able to put points up. Mm-hmm. So this isn't a smash mouth MAC team. These guys can put some points up, and they're very efficient and some great play calling against Vanderbilt. So it was a good game. But Kentucky has one thing they frustrated me with is teams like this. When you think of Miami, when you think of those losers they played last week, it's just I don't understand why Kentucky can't just come out and dominate a team like this like they should. Mm-hmm. There's moments in the game you're just like, why is this even competitive? You've got an NFL quarterback that is throwing to NFL talent, and they've got, I understand the lineman situation, but still, they're recruited to Kentucky. There's a reason that they're in, the SEC, and they should be able to push around anybody. So I think they get that right this week, but then again, I think they don't because I haven't seen it yet. So this is one of those I'm just afraid to put money on. I don't think it's a game. Calm down, Big Blue Nation. Don't tweet me just yet. I don't think that you're going to have struggles against Northern Illinois, but I do think that they linger. And that's one thing that these teams have been able to do against Kentucky. And until I see different, it's tough for me to bet that way. So give me Northern Illinois at the points, but Kentucky with the victory, 38, Northern Illinois, 21.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you had to say there, Shane. I mean, I think Northern Illinois playing Vanderbilt, I know they lost the ball game, but Vanderbilt is much better than most people realize. But I think that kind of the fact that they were able to score at will on Vanderbilt, an SEC program, maybe that gives them a little bit confidence that they'll be able to score somewhat on Kentucky. And, man, I'm a little worried on giving 26.5 points if I'm Kentucky, just given the fact that they do have some issues scoring in the red zone because they can't run the ball. But Northern Illinois is one of the worst scoring defenses in the country, so you should be able to punch it in on them. This is going to be the final game without Chris Rodriguez in the lineup. Hopefully you correct those issues when he gets inserted because you're going to need that at Ole Miss. Again, another maybe a little bit of a, I don't want to say a letdown, but a look-ahead factor with the conference schedule. They're already 1-0, but another difficult conference game heading here in 2 weeks. But I think given the fact that Northern Illinois was able to score so many on Vanderbilt, I don't think Kentucky's going to be overlooking this team. I've got the same thing as you, though, Shane. Kentucky, I got them scoring 42 in this ball game. Northern Illinois, 20. So I actually like Northern Illinois in the points. This may be a mistake, Shane. Kentucky's undefeated, obviously, on the season, but undefeated against the spread, too. So I don't know, but I just think that against the spread streak, I think it comes to an end this week.
Yeah. Okay.
How about this one, Shane? New Mexico at LSU. LSU favored by 31.5 points. Over-unders 45.5. The game kicks off 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on ESPN and the SEC Network Plus. Always great to see them Tigers play at night in Death Valley, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. This is another one of those games, Mike. I don't know which LSU is going to show up. Is it second half LSU? Is it first game LSU?
Yep.
There's so many question marks, and a lot of that has to do with what am I getting from my quarterback? And that's the problem. I don't know. I really have no idea right now. I think Brian Kelly coached a great game last week, and he put them boys in a great opportunity to take away that victory from Mississippi State, but I need to see it again. There's just too much youth on this program. There's too many question marks. That I think this offensive line's getting better. I think they're getting better. That's what's I'm having trouble with. Like, how quick are they getting better? I think this offensive line's gotten better. I think the running game's gotten better. Even the quarterback play's getting better. Does it amplify going into this week? Does it keep going? And then is LSU a serious threat in the West moving forward? I don't know. I got to see some more before I put any money on it. But, you're playing New Mexico. You know what I'm saying? It's there's no reason that this should be a ball game. Steven was on earlier, and he told you, there's not a worse offense out there than these guys. So that makes me intrigued if you're a gambler. But I don't know. I think Brian gets a little conservative here, and I think once they get the lead, I think they sit on it. I think they run the ball. They just pound the clock and get out of there. There's no reason to get anybody injured, because you got some pretty serious ball games coming up here. So I think I'm going to go with New Mexico with the points, but I don't think it's a game at all. But I've got LSU 31, New Mexico 13. Don't be surprised if they don't score in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I like a lot of what you had to say there, Shane, because there's still, like you said, a lot of youth on this team. They're starting multiple freshmen, multiple sophomores on the offensive line. Is it easy? I mean, there'll be a little bit more experience, but is it safe to assume a consistent level of performance from that group? I don't know. And, I don't want to compare Anthony Richardson and Jaden Daniels too much, but clearly Jaden Daniels very, very effective when he's running the ball. And is this a game where you say, hey, maybe we don't run as much? I mean, you never want to go into a game saying we got this one, it's going to be easy. But the last thing you want to do, Shane, is lose Jaden Daniels to, against New Mexico. So, I don't know. I think you hold him back a little bit, which I think that could potentially hurt you with the point spread, Shane. Again, I just don't think New Mexico is going to be that big of a threat. I think this is going to be a game where we see Garrett Nussmeier for about a half. I think LSU, I don't want to say very banged up, but they got a little banged up in that Mississippi State game. So they have not reached a level, in my opinion, Shane, where they're one of these dominant SEC teams. It seems like they're still, like you said, hell, they really only played one outstanding quarter against Mississippi State, and it was a hell of a quarter, and it was enough to get them the win. But we have not seen them put together a full football game, unless you count Southern, which I mean, that's like a high school team over there. So I'm right there with you, Shane. We almost have an identical score here. I'm going LSU 33, New Mexico 10. So, I'm not saying this is going to be a competitive ball game by any means, but I just think this is going to be a vanilla game. I think this is a, get everybody on the roster, some PT game. So I'll take New Mexico and 31 points on the road.
Not to mention, man, this year it's just been kind of frustrating watching SEC teams go against other conferences. You go in with uber confident and you're ready to, think it's a barn burner. But they just kind of just hang around sometimes, or they do, or you even get behind a few times. So I don't know if it's youth or what, but I'm hoping that corrects as the season goes on. But LSU has got so much youth on there, it's just tough for me to put any money on them right now.
Now, how about this one, Shane? Charlotte at South Carolina. Gamecocks favored by 22.5 points. The over-under 67. This game kicks off at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on ESPN. Who do you got in the game?
Oh, dad jokes just keep rolling in, don't they? Hey, here's the thing, man. South Carolina has had a rough go of things. They're right out of the gate. They got punched in the mouth by Georgia State, but they were able to bounce back and get that one. But since then, I mean, you've played 2 top 10 programs, and there's a lot to learn in those games, but I think too there's a lot to work on, and this is a perfect team to work on it. I want to see this offense should be running through your quarterback. Period. I understand the idea of establishing a run. Well, until you establish a line, get that shit out of here, man. Find other ways to get your running backs involved. You can do it. I mean, watch NFL. I mean, for a long time, I used to watch the Patriots. They didn't sit there and just run right at you. They found little ways to get dink and dunks and stretch the field. So I think that's what we got to do this week. We've got to get our athletes the ball, and we got to get them the ball in space. And I still think they need to work out a few things. So that's why I'm afraid. It seems like the theme of this week to put any money on South Carolina. And it's not that I don't feel confident that they're a better program, because that's not it at all. But, what they have been doing does not work. And I think that's what you got to say is what you did against Georgia was terrible, man. I mean, I know it's the number 1 team in the country, but it felt like there was a little give up in there, and it felt like there was a little confidence punched, and these guys just didn't have that swag they did week 1, and you got to get that back, and you got to find these guys some big plays, and you do that with the quarterback that you touted as the next Heisman candidate. So I want to see Rattler just fling the thing all over the field. Anybody and everybody can touch the ball. So, but I think there's going to be a few hiccups because you've not been doing that. So don't be surprised if there isn't a couple picks or maybe a forced ball or something like that. But I'm rambling now. South Carolina, I'm trying to pump them up, Mike, because I really do think the road gets a little bit easier here, thank goodness. But they still got – okay, shut up, Shane. Just give them the score. South Carolina 35, Charlotte 17. So I got Charlotte with the points.
Well, I think maybe what you were trying to get to in that epic rant there, Shane, that will be hard to decipher for the audience. But there's just some bad mojo there in Columbia right now. And I don't know what it is. And, again, it's very easy to point to, as you said, Georgia, number 1 team, most dominant team by a wide margin. You struggle against them. Arkansas, we've been pumping them up. We legitimately think they're a top 5, top 10 team. You lose to them, that's understandable, but then all of a sudden Arkansas turns around and struggles against Missouri State. So maybe there's some luster lost off the Razorbacks. And I think in reality, Shane, I mean, South Carolina fans are sitting here saying, well, hell, we struggled against Georgia State. Have we not blocked multiple punts and scored on those? Maybe we don't even win that game. And, you know, again, you don't read too much into the fan comments and stuff like that. But, you know, Marcus Satterfield meets with the media. I'm sitting here looking at all the YouTube comments. I'm looking at Shane Beamer's, you know, the comments under his press conference. I mean, this is crazy to say, Shane, but there's like a faction of the fan base that is, they're like a loss away from turning on Beamer unless he fires Marcus Satterfield, who's I think is his best friend. So it's like, man, we are in a weird spot right now. And Spencer Rattler clearly not playing up to his potential yet. Is that the system? Is it the offensive line? Is it forcing things? I don't know. But, man, I would not be stunned, Shane, if this is another like Arkansas, Missouri State last week, where you're sitting here, my God, Charlotte's got the lead on South Carolina in the fourth. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying this, not necessarily a nail biter, but, you know, if you have multiple turnovers or something, you will lose this game. Because I think that's how poorly you're playing. South Carolina is playing below expectations, below their standard. They've got the number 111th scoring defense in the country. They've got the number 100th scoring offense in the country. Yeah. This is not going to cut it. This is the perfect opponent to get things right. I hope they beat the hell out of them, but I'm right there with you, Shane. Until we see South Carolina play better, I am not taking them 22.5 points against anybody, really, unless it's a FCS opponent. So I'm going South Carolina 27, Charlotte 13. Again, I'm not hoping this happens. I'm not predicting it's going to happen, but I would not be stunned, Shane, if this is like a competitive game late in the ball game.
Yep. And then we do fire the coordinator. I don't care if he's your friend. You know? I mean, if your friend's weighing you down, you know? Right. Jeez.
Now, maybe they come out and score 60 points and he gets an extension.
Yeah, there you go. That's what we're hoping for.
Mike. Right. All right, how about this one, Shane? Vanderbilt at number 2, Alabama. Crimson Tide favored by 40.5 points. Over-unders 58.5. The game kicks off at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central on the SEC Network.
Man, buddy, I tell you what. One thing about Vanderbilt, probably they're the Cinderella story right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We talked about them week 1 because it was the only game on, but people have kind of just forgot about them. But last week, man, this team fought tooth and nail. Mm-hmm. And this quarterback, say what you want, I loved Mike Wright, and I probably still have him as my quarterback. But then I saw the new Swan come up, you know, and this kid is, I mean, he's throwing dimes. You ever seen them videos? Did you see that video where Eli Manning threw on that like fake wig and stuff? And I'm looking at this, I'm like, is that Jay Cutler? You know? His ass get up. I'm looking for him to smoking on the sidelines, but apparently it's not Cutler. It's a legit young quarterback at Vanderbilt, and you need to learn that name because he is one of those guys that's going to keep Vandy in a lot of games that you didn't think that they were going to. Unfortunately, it won't be this week because it's the Alabama Crimson Tide, but you know, Alabama's not been – I'm not saying they've let me down, but isn't that crazy? How can you say that? They're undefeated. They beat Texas. Last week they won by 50-something points, you know. It's like, how can you be disappointed? But it wasn't pretty. It's not the Alabama. Maybe that's what it is. It's not the Alabama you're used to. It's not the dominant running game. It's not the big play capabilities with the wide receivers. It's just a bunch of gritty guys themselves that make things work, and probably the best quarterback in the country, or best quarterback they've had down there in a long time. So, and that's saying a lot because they've had some good ones come through there. But Bryce is truly a game changer. There's a lot of NFL teams that love to have him. But Vanderbilt is scrappy, and they're going to find ways to make these change moves, and don't be surprised if they don't put a few points on the board. So I like Alabama, obviously, to win big, but don't be surprised if Vandy doesn't keep it a little interesting with the point spread. okay? Not the actual scoreboard. So I've got Alabama 49, Vanderbilt 14. So give me Vandy with the points.
Yeah, and you mentioned A.J. Swan, the true freshman. Shane, I hope he has another great game. Get them some confidence. I mean, that would make Vanderbilt a dangerous team. It is incredible. Mike Wright, like you mentioned, 10 touchdowns. I mean, one of the best in the SEC. Yet, man, one of the best in the SEC is the backup at Vanderbilt, Shane. This is a new era of Vanderbilt. Ray Davis, running back, 385 rushing yards, number 2 in the SEC. How about one guy you didn't mention, Shane, Will Shepherd? He's number 1 in the SEC with 313 receiving yards, 23 catches, and 7 touchdowns. Shane, he has caught a touchdown in 5 consecutive games going up back to last season. And then the true freshman, Jaden McGowan, number 6 in the SEC, 244 receiving yards. Vanderbilt has got them a dangerous young team that they can build upon here for years to come with all these players. But like you said, it ain't going to be this weekend, brother. I mean, my goodness, at Alabama, I mean, not that playing in Nashville would help you much against the Crimson Tide, but, this is a game where Alabama's, they've been having some issues, but every bright spot we noted on Vanderbilt's on the offensive side for a reason, Shane. Their defense is a train wreck. I mean, they gave up, 30-some points to Northern Illinois last weekend. So I'm there with you, but I think Vanderbilt even covers the spread, Shane, as crazy as that sounds. I'm going Alabama 58. Vanderbilt 13. So I think they'll score a couple times just like you, but give me Alabama and the points. They need to get that, turnover issues, offensive line issues, running the ball. Alabama doesn't have a single player, Shane, in the top 10 in rushing or receiving in the SEC. They may after this ball game, I think. Now, how about this one, Shane? Ooh, this could be the hot seat bowl. Missouri at Auburn. Tigers. I got to specify which one. The Auburn Tigers favored by 7 points at home. The over-under 51.5. This game kicks off at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central on ESPN right after College Game Day, brother. So big audience for this game. Which Tiger do you think wins it?
Oh, you want to talk about them now? Is that it? You know why we should be talking about this game, Mike? Because if you recall in the offseason, I made a bold statement that Brian Harsin would be fired after the Missouri game. And everybody laughed. Nobody laughed, but you laughed off camera because you couldn't do it in front of everybody. But I'm going to tell you, man, Auburn's in a scary little situation here. It's all roses. And, when you're winning the games and stuff like that. But when you get your ass beat on national TV to Penn State, that starts to divide a locker room that's already severed up top. There's no doubt that there's a lot of people in on the plains there that does not want Brian to be their head coach, okay? So these players knew it. They came into media days talking about it, and they come out with this mission statement, and it's all for one for all, whatever. But that's all fun and game when you're winning. But when you start losing, that's when the wheels roll off. You saw it with Florida last year. Enter any of these teams that's had a coach get fired. It's a spiral. So do they snap that this week against Mizzou? Maybe. But I'm not convinced. I think I saw a lot of fight in Mizzou Tigers last week, and I think this is a best opportunity, a best situation, and Eli thrives in these. You think about it; they beat Florida last year. They can take you if you're wounded. Mizzou will beat you, and so that's what I'm worried about. Is this fan base wounded? This is a noon game, 11 o'clock. Out there, those aren't fun. The fans aren't really into it at that point. This isn't a night game. This ain't a CBS 3:30 game. This is one that got kicked to noon, and it's perfect prime opportunity for the Mizzou Tigers to get their first real victory this year. And they do that, Mike, with the wide receiver Luther. You see him bag of chips in front of Mike? that kid is going to shine during this game because they are going to find ways to get him the ball. I truly believe it. They've been kind of holding him back, and maybe they've been holding him back for this game, and that's what I'm thinking's happened. So somebody asked me the other day, what does Morristown Honda sign mean? And I'm going to tell you right now. Morristown Honda is a dealership in Morristown. They had a sign out front, and every Saturday before the games, they'd put the score predictions. And, if it was Tennessee versus Ball State, then you saw 63-0 or something like that. But if you saw Tennessee versus Alabama, that score became 13-12. You know what I'm saying? It got real close.
It was always a Tennessee 1-point win.
Tennessee never lost on that scoreboard. So this is my Morristown Honda dealership. And look at all this free promo. We don't even drive a Honda, Mike. But they're getting it this week because I am not confident at all. But I am going to stick to my word that this is the game that Brian gets fired, and it's after the Mizzou victory. Missouri 21, Auburn 20.
Yeah, so many storylines heading into this one, Shane. I mean, TJ Finley reportedly is out. Zach Calzada, something we hit on the last episode, out. I don't think we'll ever see Zach Calzada suit up for the Auburn Tigers. This is the first time, Shane, Missouri's ever visited Auburn. We got to fix this damn SEC schedule. I made the joke Penn State's visited Auburn before Missouri did. That's disgraceful. So Robbie Ashford going to get to go for Auburn Tigers. I mean, he's very inconsistent. Dynamic as a runner, sensational with the ball in his hands, but he'll throw it right to the other team. And he's as likely to do that than his own player. Thankfully, they got Tank Bigsby, number 7 in the SEC, 237 rushing yards. Jarquez Hunter, Shane, number 3 in the SEC, averaging 10 points scored per game. That's the good news. The bad news, Shane, Auburn, number 11 in the SEC in scoring the ball. Missouri, number 11 in stopping people from scoring. Missouri, number 9 scoring offense in the SEC. Auburn, number 9 scoring defense. So this is two very ineffective offenses. I'll take it a step further, Shane. Passing efficiency, Auburn's number 12. Missouri's number 11. Passing defensive efficiency, Auburn 11, Missouri 10.
Oh.
Looking at all these stats, wager of the week, Shane. I'm mixing it up. I'm on a 2-game losing streak. Under. The total's 51.5 points. Man, wager it up. The under 51.5. I don't think even your score, Shane, your total's 41. You're right there with me. But you mentioned Luther Burden. How about this stat, Shane? He's only played 3 games, right?
Yeah.
He's already scored a rushing, receiving, and punt touchdown. He's only the 7th Missouri Tiger to ever do that, and the first one since 2014. I mean, this is a dynamic playmaker. Get him involved.
Yep.
Got to get him involved. Drink 3-8 on the road at Missouri, though. That's dangerous. Guess what, Shane? On Sunday, he's 4-8. Missouri, 10. Auburn, 9. Morristown Honda, game of the week. I mean, this is going to be a pathetic offensive. I mean, seriously, I think 10 points is enough to win you this ball game. I really do.
Oh, man. And it's big. It's big for both coaches. Eli needs a victory like this in the SEC. Brian needs to keep his job. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going off, but, you think a tip of the iceberg, and that's what I'm afraid that we're at with Auburn here is that, you lose another one, it's over. You've lost it. This team will fall apart. So
right.
I don't know if that happened, but it was demoralizing last week, and you could kind of see that in the players' face.
Yeah, and I think losing a game like this potentially, Shane, if it does happen, it just shows the leadership there at Auburn that, hey, just dragging this damn thing out, this is killing us.
Yeah.
If you've made a decision, make it. Don't let it linger I think it will here on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a coach, might as well get out there and start looking for a damn coach.
Right. Now we got 2 big-time showdowns here, Shane. Number 10, Arkansas versus number 23, Texas A&M, of course, in Arlington, AT&T Jerry World, Shane. Aggies favored by 2 points. The over-under is 48.5. And the game kicks off 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central on ESPN. Last season, Arkansas won 20-10, but that was the first time they beat the Aggies in 10 years. Aggies had won 9 in a row, and one more little wrinkle, Shane. Joe Tessitore, the great Joe Tess, he's calling this game. Anytime that man calls a game, you know you're in for something special. So who do you got in the ball game?
Oh, Mike, this is going to be a hell of a matchup. I mean, we've been talking about this game all off season. We couldn't wait to get to it because we knew Arkansas had to get through this one to get to Alabama.
Right.
But Texas A&M needs this to salvage their season. They really do. They need a don't get me wrong, Miami was a top 20 program in AP poll eyes, but not the SEC eyes. But if you can take it to Arkansas, you're back. You know what I'm saying? So this is this would be a huge game for the Aggies. It is at Jerry's World, so there's no real home field advantage, even though it's in Texas. But anyway, I just think these teams match. You look at what Mississippi or what Texas A&M is really good at. That's also what Arkansas is good at. So it's like strength on strength, and it could go either way. And it scares me that Vegas doesn't think Arkansas should be a favorite here. Something you talked about earlier this week. It's kind of weighed on me as well. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they're on something. So you start second guessing your thought. But then I thought, listen, Shane. What does it come down to? It comes down to line play, and it comes down to quarterbacks. And who has the best right now? Arkansas. Those big uglies up front you look at that App State game, and why that was successful is they were able to keep moving the chains on the ground. So if App State can do it, how the hell are you going to stop Rocket Sanders and this, average 6'8", 450-pound offensive line? They ain't that big, but they are massive, and there's going to be a ton of push up there. And then when they need quarterback play, guess what? They got one of the best in the game. Did they fumble last week and make a fool of themselves? Absolutely. Why? Because they're looking forward to this game. Well, this game is here, so expect it, okay? So the thoughts that this should be close, yeah, I guess you could say that because you're supposed to. But what has Texas A&M done to make you think that this is going to be a damn ball game? Seriously, short of Miami, and I'm not convinced they're a good program. They got fun uniforms. They got fun cheerleaders, I heard Michael Irvin doing his little thing. Yeah, that was entertaining, but that's not football. Football is going out here, handing the ball to your boy and watching him get 4 or 5 yards every time. That's exactly what Arkansas is going to be able to do here. Now, Texas A&M's got a good defense, so I got to factor that in because, especially in the red zone, these guys, they'll give you some, but when it gets down in the 20-yard line, they're a little bit firm when it comes to defense. So I think it's a close game because of that, not because of anything else. So, but I've got Arkansas winning this thing, Mike. Without further ado, let me just get to it. Arkansas 28, Texas A&M 21.
Well, Shane, the way this series has played out, I know we're about to talk about Florida, Tennessee, but this is basically Arkansas's Florida if they were Tennessee. I mean, this is just a bad mojo game. Crazy things happen. And like you said, the spread is very confusing. The analytics, the advanced analytics favor A&M. Also very confusing. I don't understand what the hell they're seeing when they see this unless A&M plays up to their full potential, which they have yet to do. We've got to, every week, Shane, we say, is this the week? Is this the week? Is this the week? I mean, at some point, A&M is who they are, who we've seen them be. There may not be more left in the tank. And I just have this wild feeling, Shane, I think A&M is going to win this football game. As crazy as that is to say, I got a bunch of stats here. Shane, Max Johnson, he was number 2 in the SEC last season, Shane, in passes of 40 or more yards. So he has shown the ability to push the ball down the field. I realize that was a different team, a different offense. So, take that with a grain of salt. You hit on it. A&M, number 3 scoring defense in the SEC, number 9 in the country. Jimbo has beaten a top 15 team 7 times since he's been at A&M. That's pretty outstanding. Devon Achane, we hit on him. He's number 10 in the SEC in rushing. Anaya Smith, number 4 in the SEC in receiving. Bryce Foster, getting him back at center was just massive. They probably don't beat Miami without Bryce Foster, as crazy as it is to say. I mean, they had nothing on offense aside from Devon Achane and Anaya Smith making a handful of plays here or there. Those are two outstanding athletes. And if Arkansas's defense plays as poorly as it did last week against A&M, they're going to be in real trouble with these two. They're not going to be able to tackle them. So that's weighing heavy on my mind. Of course, the flip side, KJ Jefferson, number 2 in the SEC total offense. He's outstanding. Rocket Sanders, number 1 in the SEC in rushing, number 4 nationally. Drew Sanders been playing out of his mind. He leads the nation, 5.5 sacks. Arkansas leads the country with 17 sacks. So there's a lot of reasons I like them Razorbacks, Shane, and I hope, like you're saying, that maybe they were just looking ahead. And this is going to be an all-time classic. I think it is. I'm even going so far, Shane, to say this is going to be an overtime game. I know I said I think Texas A&M wins it, and I kind of do, Shane. But I can't go on that limb and predict it. As crazy as that sounds, like this is just how wild this game is, and we've just not seen the A&M show up that I'm talking about that we think is in there somewhere. If they bring it out this week, they are fully capable of beating Arkansas. I truly do believe that, but it's kind of hard for me to see that in my head. So again, I think it's an overtime game. I think this is a complete 50-50, but for my prediction, Arkansas 27, A&M 24. Cannot wait to see this game.
Real quick on that one, do you think maybe this is because I'm kind of like you, man. I keep waiting. We kept waiting for Texas A&M to wake up. You know, I really thought it was going to be the App State game, and I was wrong. And then I thought, well, I convinced myself it's the Miami game.
Yep.
Then I was wrong. And now I'm like, I'm out. But maybe that's the time that they take the bull by you know what I'm saying? It's like, is this the time that Texas A&M shows us that they are legit? Because say what you want, they've lost a game, yes, but they still control their destiny in the SEC. There's still a chance that they could win this whole thing. They can get to a college football playoffs, but they have got to win. It doesn't have to be pretty. They can win ugly all the way to the national game. But this is a pivotal game for them. Do you see? Because you talked about it earlier. There's part of me that just sees them winning. Like, I can't believe I'm picking Arkansas. But then there's part of me that just looks at the cold hard facts and it's like, well, Arkansas is ready. Texas A&M's not. So I don't know.
It's a very tough game to predict, Shane. And here's another way that I'm kind of looking at it. I'm just playing it out of my mind. Last season, the season was literally on the line against Miami. And it was an ugly game. It was, it didn't seem that lopsided. But at no point did I feel like Miami was going to win it once they started playing. Like, they were not too tight by any means. So now that they've been a national laughingstock, now that they've righted the ship, maybe it's just a huge, huge, huge weight off their shoulders. They go out there.
No pressure.
No pressure. They go out there and play. Many, many people, everyone that I've talked to, they're looking at this game and saying, why in the hell is A&M favored? This is stupid. Arkansas in the points. But I'll tell you what, brother, they got them casinos out in Vegas for a reason. They know what the hell they're talking about. I realize it's not a score prediction, but this feels like a game where 90% of people bet on Arkansas, take those points, and it comes back to bite them because A&M wins by 3 or something crazy like that,
Yeah, I got you.
All right, Shane, the game I know you've been waiting for. Number 20, Florida, at number 11, Tennessee. Them Vols favored by 10.5 points. The over-under, 62 points. And, of course, this game kicks off at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, all CBS. Florida won last year 38-14 in Gainesville, and they've won 5 in a row in 16 of the last 17. Shane, how about this, that Tennessee has never been favored against Florida by more than 5 in 44 years. Again, they're favored by 10.5 in this one. Thoughts on the game?
Buddy. I miss the old hype video days. You remember when you throw up, it's time for a hype video? Because that's what I've been living in. I have been living in a hype video all freaking week. Every time I get on there, there's a new hype video being put out. And I watch them, every one of them. And, I keep thinking to myself, Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban talking about the rat poison and don't read the clippings, boys. But it's hard, man, because it sounds so good. It's so tempting. You know what I'm saying? It's like I've been on a diet for 8 days and someone just made a cheesecake and it's sitting in the fridge. And it's like, I know I'm not supposed to eat it, but, maybe I'll just take a little bite, I want all of it, man. And I want all of this game. Everything that this is the work, man. Tennessee Vols have put the work in, and they've had a lot of 16 out of the last 17. That's think about that, Mike. 17 games, and you lose 16 of them. That crushes your soul. And they ask, well, why is this like a hanging cloud over you when it comes to Florida? I don't know. Maybe because half my life we've got our asses kicked by the Gators. You know what I'm saying? That's part of it. But I love everything about this matchup, especially as a Volunteer fan, because, Florida can't keep up. The only way they could keep up is by not letting us have the ball. Take a page out of App State's book and run and pound and move the chains, fake injuries. That's what they're going to have to do, man. That's what they're going to have to do, because as soon as we get 2 scores on these boys, it's going to be very, very tough for them to get back into the game. And that's just because of the way their offense is situated right now. I'm not saying Anthony Richardson is talented, but he hasn't thrown a touchdown all year since week 1. You know what I'm saying? And then you got this running back group, which is very good, very dynamic. And if anybody can keep the chains moving, it's going to be those 2 boys. So part of me, Mike, here it is, rat poison. I'm already in it. One second. My camera even died. That's a sign, Mike. It's a damn sign. Talk good about the Vols in Florida, and then the camera's like, oh, you sure you want to put that out there?
At least just don't go Vols by 50 hype video.
No, I'm not going to do that, but all right. So sorry about that. I mean, is that not a sign? And you know what I'm saying? We can't even get through a podcast talking about Tennessee-Florida game without my camera messing up. So, Mike, here's what it boils down to. Who's got the better team? Right now, I think it's the Tennessee Volunteers. On offense, defense, I think they got it. The thing that worries me about the Florida Gators is those running backs. What worries me is Anthony Richardson. Here's a guy that had all the pressure in the world coming into week 1. He does it now. All right, this is a kid that can cut loose and have fun. And that's what worries me a little bit, because every time you see a team go against the Tennessee Volunteers, especially Florida, when you count the quarterbacks out, that's usually when they shine and they get back into the Heisman race. Because, again, 17 out of 16, or 16 out of 17. So I say all that, again, to say this, Mike. I'm just warning you. All right, I'm all in on the Volunteers right now, and I know Tillman's hurt, probably not going to be playing. I don't know, exactly the running back situation, but that's the good thing about this Heupel offense is he's recruited in those areas well, and I think we're going to be fine. We've got pieces to put in there. So let me get my score out here, Mike, because Tennessee Volunteers are about to do something magical, and that's beat them Florida Gators. Now you're probably going to save this, and you're going to rub it in my face, and I'm probably going to turn off the internets and the social medias, and you won't see me till Monday. There's a real possibility that happens. Anybody that's listening to the show knows that I've done it. How many times now? 6 out of 7? Is that what you said? Yeah. So there's been. So I mean, any listener of this show, every single year I've gone off the grid. But I'm buying back in. I'm buying back in. So give me those Tennessee Volunteers scoring 38, Florida 24. I think they keep it close. Here's how I think it plays out, Mike. I think Florida keeps it close, maybe even has a little touchdown lead in the first quarter, okay? But I think something happens in the second, an accident on defense, Anthony Richardson maybe throws a pick, and then we start scoring. And once that happens, once we get the confidence, once we get that little monkey off our back knowing that we could beat the Florida Gators, I think that's exactly what we do. We stretch the field, and it's not that Florida can't compete with Tennessee. They just can't do it this year. Unless we get between our own ears, that's the only way the Florida Gators beat us. So, yeah, I think this is the year please God be the year for Tennessee Volunteers. Come on. What do you got, Mike?
Yeah, Florida's got to come out, start hot. That's the key to the game. So paramount. They've got to be able to rush the ball, shorten Tennessee's possessions. And Hendon Hooker, Shane, he's kind of been shaky starting out. So, I mean, that's critical for Florida. They've got to continue that trend. He's 4 of 8 in the first in game 1, Shane. Hendon Hooker was 4 of 8 to start. Game 2 against Pitt, 2 of 8. That's awful. 4 of 8 again against Akron. So Florida's got to hope that trend continues. And this is also a red flag, Shane. 3rd and short, which is 4 yards to go or less.
Yeah.
Tennessee was 2 of 5 versus Ball State. 4 of 9 against Akron. I mean, this is going to be a hell of a lot tougher test than those programs. So how about this stat, Shane? Richardson, he rushed it, design rushes against Utah 11 times. He was spectacular. Against South Florida and Kentucky combined, only 14. So you've got to unleash him. I don't care if he's banged up or what. You got to put it all on the line in a game like this. Otherwise, you got no shot in hell of beating them Tennessee Vols, Shane. Checkerboard kneeling. This crowd is going to be incredible.
Great uniforms, game day. Come on. Peyton Manning's going to be down there.
I was wrong about that one, Shane. No gray.
Oh.
They're going traditional, which the old farts are going to like that even better. Orange tops there for the Tennessee Vols.
Okay.
But how about this, Shane? Florida in the 3rd quarter, they have yet to score. They have 81 total yards in 3 ball games. They've got 2 turnovers, 8 first downs in the 3rd quarter. So something to be said there. Even if this is a tight ball game at halftime, Shane, Billy Napier and company, I don't know what the hell they're doing at halftime, but they're not doing it right. That's going to be something to monitor in this ball game. You know, Josh Heupel's been saying all the right things. I think his confidence is certainly going down to the players, it looks like. But how about Florida, Shane? I mean, all week, they are very, very confident heading into this matchup. And maybe that's just because they own Tennessee and Florida, you know, they deserve to talk up the big game, even though they're not ranked as high, even though they've already dropped a game. I mean, this is shades of can a duck pull a truck out here, you know what I mean? The last time Florida was this confident in a ball game, that was a real issue. But how does Florida handle their first road game of the season? And not just any. Shane, if they were going to, I don't know, Vanderbilt, I'd be like, how's Florida going to handle, this trip? This is going to be on a different level with the CBS, Checker Neyland. These fans are going to be insane. Game day, I mean, so much hype. How does Tennessee handle hype? That's the biggest question in my mind, Shane. I say all that to say this, Shane. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me a dozen times, I must be a Tennessee grad. Tennessee 38, Florida 17. I got this as a 3-touchdown ball game. I don't see any way Florida keeps this competitive. I'm sure I won't regret these comments, brother. But, I know week to week teams look completely different, so there's something to be said for that. But, man, just the way Florida's playing, I don't know. And I don't know if you saw this, Shane, but Dan Mullen came out here and said, of course, Dan Mullen knows Anthony Richardson as well as anybody. But he says when everybody's counting him out, like the Utah game, when the expectations are low, he shines. When you put, expectations on him, pressure on him, he kind of has been crumbling. And this, if you're a Tennessee fan, you got to keep that in the back of your mind because everybody and their mother is picking Tennessee to win this game. Even Dan Mullen, he said all that, then he turned around and said, yeah, Tennessee's going to win. No expectations. We may be getting Superman Anthony Richardson. And if we do, I don't even know if that's enough to have Florida win the ball game, but it would be enough in my mind to have them be competitive. The biggest issue, Shane, is just there's two key critical factors in this. Florida is severely lacking weapons outside of two outstanding running backs and Anthony Richardson himself, which he may be limited. And two, they're very, very, very thin on defense. And how in the world can you match up against a Tennessee offense that snaps the ball in 18 seconds and is going to try to run 100 plays? It just doesn't seem realistic to ask Florida to hold up on defense for 4 quarters. That doesn't mean Tennessee's going to score 50 points or anything.
Yeah.
But hell, we both got them scoring 38, and that would be, I believe, their lowest scoring of the season. So
yeah.
Tennessee may even score more than 38.
Oh, just crown them, baby. Just crown them already. SEC champs. Let me ask you, Mike. Now that we've got our predictions in and projections, so here's how this game really plays out. Florida comes out, punches us right in the mouth, goes up 7-0. Then they start leaning on the running game, right? Then we kind of inch back into this thing, and then Anthony Richardson gets hurt. Now enters the backup. Now, not the backup, because he's hurt, right? But the backup. Who's that guy?
Freshman.
Don't even know his name.
Yeah.
I don't know his name. It doesn't matter. You'll know his name after this game because he'll come back and then he'll lead the Florida Gators to this huge victory. And there's quarterback controversy for the next 2 seasons. So that's what happens, Mike, because I've been hurt so many times.
So is it safe to say your confidence level is low in your prediction heading into this matchup?
Lower than Morristown Honda, man. There's a reason I didn't put a wager on here because I don't want to jeopardize my undefeated season.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, do I put it on there? Maybe there's some good, mojo on there. But I was like, no, it's a Tennessee-Florida game. I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. I'm going to go there. I'm going to enjoy it because I'm telling you, man, this is going to be the greatest game of the week, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong. I think the Texas A&M Arkansas game is a fantastic game. Nothing against Missouri and Auburn, but there's just something about this one here with the game day, and it's going to be loud. It's going to mimic that Ole Miss at times 10. Tennessee's going in there expecting to win. Florida's coming up expecting to win. That's what's so magical about this game. The Texas A&M game, I would put it up there if it weren't played in freaking Dallas Stadium. You know what I'm saying? So. But yeah, it's just going to be a monumental game, and the crowd's going to be behind them. So I think that Tennessee's going to win this thing, but I'm not 100% sure because I'm also a realist, Mike, and I've been hurt before.
Right. No, I'm not surprised at all to hear that, Shane, and wouldn't be surprised if you go silent during this game until Tennessee, if and when they have a lead, you may reemerge. But
right.
You're going to be on the edge of your seat come Saturday, and I don't blame you, given everything we've seen in this series. I had our friends at Wager Shane make up a graphic with Shane's Wager of the Week, Tennessee over Florida, but that's how confident I thought you would be, but totally understand the lack of confidence. Again,
no,
I mean,
I can't.
No doubt we're getting Utah version of the Florida Gators and Anthony Richardson on Saturday. Mark my words. You know what?
You want to see the best fought Florida game this year? It's going to be Saturday. Knoxville, Neyland Stadium. You're getting them. It's because that's just how it is. That's how it's always been. I think that's why we're nervous. We're going to come in nervous. We're going to act like we've been there before. We're going to act like this isn't a ball game. And you see it online. A lot of cocky fans, but we do that every year. But this year's a little bit different. But every single true volunteer fan, you ask them in their gut. Would you put your mortgage payment on it? Would you, put your firstborn on it? They're going to say no because it's the Florida Gators and they find ways to beat us, So,
right.
So everybody, all the Florida fans, they know what I'm talking about. They listen to us brag about how great Tennessee's offense is and the Heupel thing, but in the back of their mind, they're like, yeah, you say what you want because I'm saving every last clip so I could put it on Twitter on Monday to rub it in your fat face.
Well, brother, I think that's a perfect way to end this episode unless you got anything else before we hop off the line.
No, man. I will tell you, it's been a tough week here at the Cousin Shane residence, and I'm going to tell you, if you've got if your mom, dad's still up and at it, give them a call today. This is a little public service announcement. Just you haven't talked to them in a while, just call your mama, tell you love her, and your dad. If you got a chance, go watch a ball game with him Saturday. So we only get so many laps around the sun, and we need to love the ones we're with. So just a little PSA from Cousin Shane.
Yeah, that's a great way to cap it, Shane. I appreciate you, as always. I appreciate each and every one of you for continuing to support the show. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right, see you guys. Go Vols, baby!